Hi. Let's try that again. It's going very well as always. What? Why is... Okay, that's really weird. I may have to stop this and start it again because there's no me. Tony, do you see me or do you just see the Affinity Video Cal image, which is what I'm seeing? Let me know because this is wacky. Okay, there. Wow, that was the longest delay. Sorry, it's normally just a 30-second delay, but that was like a full minute delay. Okay, I think I'm actually live. Hello. Oh, snowy Montreal. I just got a text from a friend of mine in Brooklyn, and it's snowing there. It's snowing here, but like super, super, super light flurries, but it is freezing. And we're kind of cheap, so we keep the heat pretty low. So I have my little space heater here. So I'm sure it's cold where everybody is. Maryland, Rhode Island, I'm sure it's cold there. Michigan, I know it's cold there. Oh, well, it might not be cold. And well, I don't know. Is it cold in Austria? And Northern California probably is cold in Northern California. Anyway, hi, everybody. I have all of my questions that were sent in to me. So in case you are not following me on Instagram, hey, why aren't you following me on Instagram? So immediately go follow me on Instagram, Patty J. Lyons. But if you just put in Patty Lyons, you'll find me right away. So in preparation for our live, I put up an Instagram story that had Ask Me Anything. So you put in this little Ask Me Anything sticker, and then people type in questions. Some of them were easy questions that I could answer on the story. And so, by the way, you can still see a lot of those questions and answers up on my Instagram story. They only last for 24 hours. But I might archive them. I can archive them in a story highlight. So I might do that because you know what? I've done other Ask Me Anythings in the past. But some of the questions I responded, there's no way I can answer that, come to the live. So I have a bunch of really fun and interesting questions. And then also, you guys can type questions in the chat. But if you do, just like when we do a live class, if you can put capital Q : for a question, that way I can scroll through the chat and find the actual questions. Oh, 48 in Northern Cali, that's not warm. Actually, it's going to be 48 here tomorrow. Today, yesterday it was like 20s, which was cold. But then next week, which I'm very excited about, we're going to get about 5 inches of snow. So, as long as I can't go anywhere or do anything, I'm kind of really looking forward to just being inside by a roaring fire, although our firewood situation is dire. We had a friend stayed at the house pre-pandemic, before we were living here full time, and she stayed here. It was when I was on the road, so it was wow, almost a year ago. It was back in February, I think, which was the last time I taught live. I mean, in person. Not I teach live almost every week, but I mean in person. I was I forgot where I was in February. But anyway, she stayed at the house and she must have kept fires going 24/7 because we came back to the house, we opened the woodshed and we're like, oh, we have almost no more firewood. Now, what we should have done is taken care of that little issue in the spring. But as you probably remember, in the spring, things were pretty bad in COVID land. And we figured, well, no one's going to come deliver firewood, to our house in the middle of a pandemic. I think we have enough, so we'll just ride it out. We so don't have enough. And now everyone is saying they're out of firewood. So we might do something crazy like buy a big plastic bin and order firewood delivery back in Brooklyn and like just drive a bin over at a time, which is going to be a super bummer. But anyway, I am looking forward to 5 inches of snow. This weekend, I'm teaching at Vogue. Oh my God, sorry. That was like the first thing I was supposed to tell you guys. So for those of you who follow Virtual Vogue Knitting Live and you set your alarm for when those classes go on sale, because classes, some people's classes sell out right away. So 4 out of 5 of my classes sold out in like 2 hours. Yesterday, I mean, they let me add 10 more spots. So if you got locked out of the Saturday and Sunday class, which is Professional Polish Secrets of the Pros, which has some really cool tricks, super cool tricks, like what happens when you drop a stitch in your long tail cast on, as you're knitting the first row, or what happens when you run out of yarn in a long tail cast on, and all sorts of like increases tricks, really fun tricks. So Saturday, I believe, now I have to check my schedule. Saturday, I think is, yes, Professional Polish is Saturday. And then Sunday was Advanced Knitting Fixes. Both of those were completely sold out. Friday's class, Chart It, Swatch It, Love It, does have a few spaces left. But now, if you were locked out of the Saturday and Sunday class, we've added only 10 spots to each. So immediately open another browser window, go to vogueknittinglive.com and book that before you forget. Oh my God, I almost forgot to tell you that. Sorry. So this weekend I'm teaching at Vogue. Next weekend, I'm also teaching, but I can't remember where or why or who for, but I know I'm busy. Because I was thinking it would be nice to, I'm busy teaching for myself. Saturday, I'm teaching Build a Better Fabric, and that's sold out. And then Sunday is the Zoom session for the knit group for Affinity. It's not a class, it's just a knit group. But anyway, I thought it'd be really fun to just have a snowy day, have like 5 inches of snow. So is that crazy? Does anyone else look forward to, since we have no place to go, we can't go anywhere or do anything. It's not like I can, bundle up and meet my friends at a movie or go out to a restaurant or go see a Broadway play. My God, I miss going to theater. So, might as well let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. You know what I'm saying? Boston, cold, but no snow. But you know what, Boston? What was it? What was that year? Wasn't 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where I think Boston, who, by the way, it's not like y'all aren't used to snow. But for those of you who don't know Boston, that's where my brother-in-law lives. They got so much snow that there was no place to put it. They dumped it in the harbors. The harbors were full. There was no place to put it. My brother-in-law has a tree in his front yard, and they just started piling up the snow from the driveway and stuff around the tree until the front yard looked like they had basically a giant triangle, like a giant tent. So Boston, I think you've had enough snow for the decade, I'm thinking. Yeah, snow flurries indeed. Yeah, they're just flurries here. Okay, I'm going to, yeah, Marcia, I don't like snow, but it's just pretty when you're inside because you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. So it's just so beautiful. No longer use fireplaces in Montreal. You mean your fireplace, or is that a city ordinance? Which I know I feel a little guilty every time I use my fire in Brooklyn, but I know it's not like clean fuel, but here in the middle of the woods, it's how most of us kind of heat our house. So, there you go. Anyway, okay, let's get to the knitting questions. Oh, it is city ordinance. Yeah, they mulled over doing that in the city, but I think I'm trying to remember whether new constructions are allowed to have wood burning fireplaces. I don't think new constructions are in Manhattan. Most of the wood burning fireplaces are in Brooklyn and Queens. There are some random wood burning fireplaces left in the village, like the West Village in Manhattan. Okay, so here are I had to do screenshots, which is really annoying, of the questions, because when you do an Ask Me Anything on Instagram story, it won't let you save them forever. So there you go. Okay, so a couple of ones that I could not answer, and one of them that I can't answer, it's dependent on the person being here. So if Kate Ashton is here, I need a bit of an explanation, because this one baffled me. Why are my decreases looser than my increases? Now, I said it depends on what decrease you're talking about and what increase, because a decrease is taking 2 stitches away. So I wasn't sure what she meant by looser. I'm guessing she's referring to the SSK, which is that issue of an SSK has column number 1 on top of column number 2. So the act of knitting the 3rd stitch tightens the one underneath. So the one on top that you see is still loosey-goosey. So I do have like a fun trick for that in Patty's Knitting Bag of Tricks, my 1 move SSK. Oh, thank you, Tracy. Tracy says she loves my sweater. This is Soccer Tort. It's just really warm. It's out of Taki. Oh, I forgot the name. It's, oh God, it's that classic old yarn. Now I have to go look it up. That's been around forever and ever. It's one of Taki's kind of old favorites. And now I'm super embarrassed that I can't remember the name of it. So I'm going to Ravelry while I'm on the line with you. Isn't that super profesh? It's all very profesh. But I know you want to know what yarn it is. It's so warm and cozy. And I love the tweediness of it. Okay, and you know what? Tweed's in the name. I can remember that. And now probably by the time I go back to the chat, 8 million of you will have written in the name. Okay, it is, oh right, a Donegal tweed. It's Donegal tweed. Donegal tweed, which is a classic, just so nice and warm and yummy. Okay, but a couple other really interesting questions, and then I'll scroll through and find yours. Remember, put a Q there so I can find it. Dory asked me, what is the perfect place to start your decreases for waist shaping and then with your increases again? Now, I said, first of all, there is no perfect for all sweaters. It's going to depend on the shape. Second of all, are you talking horizontally, meaning where in the row, or vertically, up and down, where in relationship to your waist? So a couple words about that. One is I love doing shaping swatches that help me figure out what type of increase and decrease I'm doing. And we do that a little bit in Secrets of Spectacular Sweater Success, which is a 2-part class that I teach for Vogue. I am going to do it in January again. I know a lot of people were asking me if I was going to do it in December, but they like to mix things up. So they like to keep a variety going. Oh, wait. Yes, horizontally. Or are you the one who asked? Oh, yes, you are the one who, yes, horizontally. Okay, you mean across the row. Okay, so you can get a lot of different effects depending on where you put them and what you're wanting to achieve. So for instance, if you have a very wide base and you're going to something narrow, so like a swing shape. So like if it's a swing shape like this, or like this guy, When you put your decreases all the way at the edge, what's going to happen is you're going to get a dip at the side when you seam it. So that might be a negative thing, or it might be a positive thing when you do it on purpose. So something like this is a swing shape, and it's just basically a giant triangle. And here the decreases are all the way blown out, all the way at the edge. And what that does is it makes it like a faux reverse shirt tail. It makes it this little swing shape. Another swing shape that's interesting and sort of unusual way to do the decreases. Oh, I'm going to see, you know what? I didn't attach my overhead camera. Let me see if I can quickly attach it. So I want to show this overhead. So for a hot second, there'll be a black screen. Don't panic. Nobody panic. Everybody relax. Relax. It's all going to be okay. There we go. All right. So here we have a swing shape, and understanding the principle of decreases means you can use them for really interesting effects. So here, instead of having traditional shaping, which is the number of stitches at the middle remain constant, and the number of stitches at the side are what goes away. What I did with Roselle, in order, because this is a reversible top, in order to match the fun shape of the lace placket that's in the back, I put them not the way they normally are, which is you do your decrease on the outside of the marker, before the marker on this side, after the marker on this side, but I did them inside the marker. Now what that means is you get a little triangle and you get this little swing shape. However, if you're talking regular waist shaping, well, then you want to consider whether or not you want them visible or not. And again, how wide is the base? So know that even moving them in, and again, we go over this in Secrets of Spectacular Sweater Success, even moving them in from the edge by 6 or 9 stitches is going to make a big difference. But because it'll give you more of a human shape. You can also move them all the way in to dart position. So I don't know if you can see that. See where those guys are? So for that, you take the width of the sweater, and you can either divide it in quarters or in thirds. If you divide it in thirds, right, then you have, say it is 90 stitches. I'll make it easy. Wait, did I do that right? 90 divided by 3 is 30. So 30, yeah. So you would move them in, so in dart position, so you would knit 30, and then you have your marker. So instead of your markers on the edge, you move those markers in. So the decrease goes before, slip marker, work middle section, and then the decrease goes after. But do a shaping swatch and see what you like the look of. Because the other thing is what type of increase, right? So are you doing a lifted increase, or are you doing a make one, knit front and back loop? They all give a different effect. Yes, horizontal. So horizontally is this way. This way is vertically. So you said I meant directly under the bust or lower. So waist shaping goes to the waist, right? So when you are shaping to the thinnest part of you, might not be the waist, right? It might be an empire waist, right? If you're just doing this, but you're shaping to the thinnest part of you, and then you're increasing after that. About when and where to increase. Yeah, by the way, take my Secrets of Spectacular Sweater Success in January. Be very good. Mail knitter, you guys put the Q. It's easier for me to find. I'm going to go through these first, and then I'm going to come back to these, but put the Q there so they're easier for me to find. Someone else asked, any tips for a first-time sweater design, especially on how to grade patterns? So the one thing that's important if you want to try to learn sweater design is, first of all, get books and learn the basics, because you need to learn the basics of proportions. So there's your standards, and then you'll know when you want to deviate from your standards. Standards like a crew neck, a third of the stitches go away at the first center bind off, and then a third and a third, basics like that. Armhole shaping needs to take place in the lower third of the armhole, all that stuff. But then you want to stick to stockinette for your very first design, because then you don't have to also worry about stitch multiples. So when we're learning how to design, like I teach a class called Fundamentals of Sweater Design, which I haven't taught in a while, so I might do it online. I might put a survey out for you guys to see which are the classes that you want to see me do next. So in Fundamentals of Sweater Design, we deal with designing a stockinette sweater. So your initial series of measurements, what's called your raw measurements, are based on the measurements that you want to get, and then you apply your gauge. If it's something like this, so here we have one stitch multiple over here for this cable, another stitch multiple for this cable, another stitch multiple for this cable, another stitch multiple for stockinette, another stitch multiple for the seed stitch here. So we have all these different stitch multiples to apply. So then you get, from your raw information, then you get your M round. And that's why, if ever you've wondered, as a knitter, like, hey, how come the small is 16? And then, size number 1 is 16. Size number 2 is 18. Size number 3 is 19 3/4. Size number 4 is, 22. So they're not 2 inches between each. That's because of stitch multiples, because you're going to have a set number of stitches on your needle. So the more complicated a design, a lot of new designers see something like this and they're like, oh, I want to learn how to design that. Don't start here. This was wildly complicated. Start with stockinette. Then sweater grading is not really something you can learn from a book. There are some classes out there. There are some good, there's some good resources if you Google around for people that are running live classes. But even then, it takes many, 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 many years to learn proper sweater grading, where it's not just raw math, building out. And every designer has developed their own standards of measurements from years of experience. So for instance, I'm not going to lie to you, there are designs that I did years ago that are on my to-do list to tweak and republish. Because when I first started designing, I would use the standards published by the Craft Yarn Council. Then I kicked it up a notch and I used the ASTM standards, which you have to pay for, which you have to buy. But that's British, and American measurements are just different. And I really, with all due respect to the CYC, there are some measurements that I just straight up disagree with. And I disagree with them based on the feedback that knitters give you when you publish a design, right? So if everybody who's knitting a size 42 and up says, oh, is there a way that I can mix another arm size for, then you might go, I think the CYC standards, Craft Yarn Council's standards for upper arm measurements might not be right. So for me, armhole depth, crossback, and upper arm measurements, I just don't jive with the CYC. So you're going to have to do a lot of learning over the years, but start by just learning how to design for yourself in stockinette, and don't worry about learning how to grade right away. Other interesting questions was, where was this one? Oh, how do you pick up stitches and not make it look terrible? I do have a YouTube video for picking up stitches. When there's things like that, it's hard to know what went wrong when someone says, how do you make it not look terrible? But there's a few standards, like picking up in the wrong space, picking up inside a stitch instead of between two columns of stitches. That's one. One is that you slipped the first stitch of every row, in which the pattern most likely did not tell you to do, but your mother told you to do. Well, then your picking up stitches is going to look terrible. And that's not your fault. It's that you slipped a stitch. And so you have a slip stitch salvage. And now you only have one space to go in where you should have two. And you have this big elongated stitch. So it's possible that they look terrible because you slipped a stitch. That's another possibility. Oh, I did answer that one online. A lot of these I answered online, but there was one that I definitely said that I got to answer live. Oh, how do you avoid the ladders between, that one I answered live. I answered on the story. How do you decrease seed stitch or any pattern stitch in the round? So those are kind of two different questions. How do you decrease in a pattern stitch? And I teach a whole class called Shape Up, which maybe it's time to teach again live. Would you guys be interested if I taught Shape Up, shaping, staying in pattern? I go from knits and purls, and then I deal with cables, then I deal with lace. I deal with how to tell what to do based on just words, a chart. So tell me if anyone would be interested in that. So you have the issue of how to shape staying in pattern. But if it's in the round or flat, it's the same thing. But she mentioned specifically seed stitch, and she mentioned in the round, which makes me wonder if this is the same person that wrote me an email to Ask Patty, to Modern Daily Knitting. And it wasn't really an appropriate question for a column, because remember, those are questions for columns. So usually I just collect them, and if I'm not going to answer them in a column, they don't get answered. It's not, it's like writing to Dear Abby. Dear Abby doesn't answer all the emails. She just picks some out and she publishes. However, this was a beginner knitter and I couldn't resist helping. So I did that Socratic method thing where I emailed back a bunch of questions. So there were a lot of things that were going wrong in the pattern reading, but she mentioned specifically, how do you do the crown shaping? Then the pattern said, do a knit two together, then continue in seed stitch. So this is a beginner knitter who's glued to the pattern and doing row one, row two, rather than understanding, oh, wait a minute. Seed stitch is knitting the purls and purling the knits. So for the crown, you have those nice sharp rows of knit two togethers. That's on purpose. That makes the beautiful crown. So you put in your decrease and then you stop and you look what's on your needle and you return to being in pattern. So that's all we have to do. And that's the same thing with complicated stuff like lace. So this was for Tortola. And one of the things that we really learned in Tortola, I'm going to go to the overhead again, is how to shape staying in pattern. Because here we had this lace panel that increases. So you do a decrease over here, and then you do a make one, and then you have to go, okay, wait a minute. Where do I have to be to get back into the lace pattern? So the lace stacks up. Then we do a make one and we increase. Now, the reason something like this can't simply be charted out for every size, well, it can be, but then you're kind of messing up the knitter, is not only because there are a lot of sizes, but because when something like that is charted, you lock the knitter in to having to match your stitch and row gauge, no matter what. Like, sorry, you have to be there, have to be on this row, because now you got to begin this chart. right? So in the class in Tortola, which is a video sweater class, I teach how to increase staying in pattern. So, would definitely take shape up. I think I am going to put a survey out for you guys. So all you guys on my newsletter group, and if you're not, go to pattylyons.com and sign up for the newsletter. I think I'll put out a survey for what classes I should do in January and February, because there's a bunch that I think would translate really nicely into the virtual world, like fantastic cast on and bind offs and shape up, and maybe for a smaller group to do fundamentals of sweater design. That one might have to be a little spendier because I might have to keep the group smaller. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting question. Another one that was definitely well, I have to answer that in person because it's too complicated, is, well, this one I didn't really understand. How to adapt a pattern with cables. Where's the best place for the increase and decrease? So I think how to adapt a sweater with cables, that is Chart It, Swatch It, Love It. That is the Friday class. So the Friday class is all about like, oh, I like that sweater, but I want to do a different cable here. Or I like this shape, but instead of a lace panel, I want to make it long sleeve and make it out of wool and do a cable in the middle, which, by the way, I keep meaning to do that design. Keep meaning to repurpose this basic shape, which I really like, but make it long sleeves and do a cable in the middle. So a lot of these, there's not like a single answer, but for instance, where you put the decrease, again, that depends on the shaping you want. And we do that in Chart It, Swatch It, Love It as well. We talk about decreases, fully fashioned shaping that will move the stitch pattern at the same time as the body moves, versus decreases where you can move the stitch pattern and not change the body shape, right? Like rising spades, where the stitch pattern moves, but the body shape remains straight. So that's all sorts of fun stuff there. Okay, last one on here, and then I'm gonna come over here. Best short row method for cotton or cotton wool blends. And then someone else simply asked, what's the best short row method for each situation, or how do you decide on short row methods? Okay, so let me talk to you a little bit about short rows. We have wrap and turn, German, twin or shadow, yarn over, Japanese. These are like the 5 big families of short rows. So first of all, they break into 2 basic concepts pattern-wise. One is like the wrap and turn, you are wrapping the last unworked stitch. Shadow wrap or German, you are making a double stitch or a twin on the last worked stitch. So pattern-wise, they're not interchangeable, but that's okay. I have a blog post on how to swap them out, like what you need to do to understand that. So for instance, if you've ever done a wrap and turn and you knit until 3 stitches at the end of the row, and then it says wrap and turn. So you knit, 3 stitches are left, right? So you stop. What do? You wrap the first unworked stitch. So what you have on your needle now is 2 stitches and a wrap. But if that were German short rows or twin stitch, you work until 3 stitches. Well, with German short rows, you turn first. I think of it as, instead of wrap and turn and warp, right? We turn, then we slip and lift that up and over. So I have 3 stitches and a doubled stitch. So what that means is if I have 4 stitches between each turn, what I see on the needle with German short rows is 3 stitches and a doubled stitch, because the last worked stitch is doubled. Which you use when? On this guy, because it is a shawl collar, and on Costa Maya, which is under here somewhere, which also has a shawl collar. Now, shawl collar turns. I love German short rows. To me, are the most invisible, right side and wrong side. The runner up for the most invisible, right side and wrong side, would be shadow wrap twin stitch. So even though the way I have this designed is that when you're knitting here, the turn, the doubled stitch, is always on a purl, which means that doubled stitch comes to the front of the fabric, but the front of the fabric is the back of the fabric when you turn. However, the reason I did German short rows is 2 reasons. Reason number 1, sometimes people like have their shawl collar blocked more, like that, a little higher. Sometimes people flip their shawl collar up, but also this is a video sweater class, which means I unlock all the math. So by the way, the person that asked about designing, I humbly think you learn a lot about design by taking any of my video sweater classes, because you're not just following the pattern. I unlock the math for you and show you, oh, well, if I'm knitting it to this stitch gauge, I would do this. If I'm knitting it to this row gauge, I'm doing this. If I change the depth of the V-neck, this is how short row shaping shawl collar is figured out. This is how I can change it. So in the tutorial that went live today came out the last sweater part. So all the tutorials for the finishing went out. Oh, those tutorials were complicated for me to write. It was a lot of brain-breaking math for me to write. Because the one thing I didn't think about when I thought like, oh, I'll do a video sweater class where you can do a cardigan or a pullover in adult sizes or children's sizes, is that I don't just write 1 tutorial, I have to write 4 different tutorials. That was sad. Anyway, even though in the tutorial, I do suggest keeping the doubled stitch on a purl, I know that if you can't, if for whatever reason it ends up on a knit, it's not going to be a big deal because it's German short rows. So they look pretty darn invisible right and left. Now, what about the other ones? This question was specifically about cotton. By the way, do we have the knitter here that asked that question? So cotton or cotton blend. Now, if it's a cotton wool blend, it has more elasticity. But if it's a cotton, you're talking not a lot of elasticity or memory. So it's going to depend on how tight a knitter you are. German short rows, you're lifting the yarn up and over the needle, right? And then you work that doubled stitch together. So it does work in cotton, but if you're a super tight knitter and you had to really distort it a lot to get that yarn up and over the needle, it doesn't have the memory and the elasticity in the memory to like, fill that in and wiggle it out. If you're a super tight knitter, wrap and turn could be difficult because you might strangle that stitch so much that you have trouble lifting that wrap up and over. Same with German short rows. Japanese short rows. So a yarn over short row might be great for you if you're a super tight knitter. On the other hand, if you're a super loose knitter, German short rows might be great for you. Yarn over short rows or wrap and turn might be not so good because they might be too crazy loosey-goosey. So a lot of people always look for rules like an always or a never. But there's very rarely an always or a never in knitting. It's usually more like, well, it depends. How do you knit? What are you working on? What do you want it to look like? All that stuff. Okay, I'm scrolling back here. Patty, do you have a tutorial class on inserting a zipper? I don't. So, DJ, I can't believe you asked me this. So just yesterday, I was talking to my friend Pam, and I was saying how I have my list of things that I've never done, or at least never designed. Maybe I've knit back in my knitter days, did it in somebody else's pattern. Designing pockets was on my list of something that I'd never designed, and boom, I've worked that out. Zipper is the other thing on my list of something I've never designed. So I definitely like want to look at maybe a zipper for the fall. However, I do think I have linked somewhere, it might be on my Pinterest page, believe it or not. I'm going to go look. I once saw a really, really neat tutorial. I like never use Pinterest. I mean, I don't use as much as I should, but it is linked from my homepage. And I do have a Pinterest board for techniques. I'm actually, I can't even remember I go so infrequently. I have to go to my website to go to Pinterest from my homepage. But I remember pinning it because I thought, ooh, that's cool. So I'm just going to go look. Where do I find my boards? Oh, wow. I haven't been to Pinterest in so long. They've changed this all. Okay, here we go. Knitting techniques. I have a board called Knitting Techniques. And let's see if it's in. I remember putting it somewhere. I thought it was really neat. There it is. Zipper tutorial. It's on my Pinterest page. This isn't my tutorial. It's somebody else's, but I thought it was really cool because they were using, oh, it's split yarns. Oh, split yarn. Kara Sheridan? Oh, I'm embarrassed. She's a friend of mine. I didn't know that was hers. It uses blocking wires to sort of hold everything in place. And I thought, oh, I think even I could sew something like that. So it's hand sewn, but it shows it shows the use of blocking wires, which is really cool. But I think I'm probably going to try a zipper for the fall video sweater class. So there you go. Sorry, Freaky Geek said many people check out the Ravelry while doing either lives or podcasts. Oh, really? Okay. Okay, so yes, that makes sense. I'm a male knitter, 59-inch chest. Can you suggest one of your classes for me to buy so I can design my own sweaters? I would start with Affinity as far as, well, here's the thing. If you want to knit it for yourself, then Affinity, because it's a unisex sweater and it goes up to 64-inch chest. However, it is by far my most complicated design, not the most complicated to knit, my most complicated design. If you want to take one of my classes to knit and learn, and then give the sweater away, I would start with Corcoran, because Corcoran is a seamed, one stitch pattern throughout, but it's got all the tutorials of like how you would adjust for, I want long sleeve, I want short sleeve, I want a scoop neck. So you're going to learn a lot of the math there. So there you go. Oh, good. I think I understand. Thank you. Excellent. Freaky Geek, not everyone's built the same way or size. That's true. However, here's the thing we need to understand about sweater grading. So first of all, it's gone crazy. Now knitters' expectations is, in fact, that they should be able to find their particular size in any sweater pattern. That's kind of impossible. And never used to be how sweater patterns were, right? Unfortunately, that ship has sailed as far as knitters taking responsibility for their own knitting. That ship has kind of sailed. Sweaters used to come in small, medium, large. Did that mean people were only in 3 sizes? No, people were in as many different shapes and sizes as they are now. But a knitter just needed a handful of examples of how to knit that design, and then they figured it out on their own. No one's willing to do that anymore. No one's willing to invest in their craft enough to do that. So now sweaters come, in 8 sizes, 10 sizes. Affinity came in 12 sizes, but yet, here's my soapbox, y'all still want us to charge $8. That's crazy pants. And you want all the video anyway. It's true that not all people come in the same shapes and sizes. However, it is also true that bodies have changed over the years. Body standards have changed over the years. I think this has to do with a lot of things, It has to do with the fact that we are more, weirdly, we're both more sedentary, but yet we also work out more. So upper arm measurements of women from forever ago are different than upper arm measurements of women now. We have guns, we have muscles. So I do think that in general, there's certain measurements that are just across the board. They don't work for anyone. And I do find that from about 40, 44, 46-ish and up, I do not agree with the shoulder to shoulder bone measurement of CYA, and I do not agree with the upper arm measurement. So there you go. Okay, so good. People think they would want to take Shape Up. That's good. Oh, Kate Atherley has a tutorial on MDK. You know, I should have thought of MDK is a good place to start for searching for tutorials. It's an excellent place to start. I just love that tip of using the blocking wires. So just running the blocking wires right through both the zipper and the sweater, and just to keep everything super straight and matchy. I just thought it was a really cool tip. Okay, scrolling back, because every time you guys type, it jumps. Freaky Geek, if you do a beginner sweater in January, February, will you do a mini top first as a swatch? If I'm doing a beginner sweater, are you saying if you're knitting one? There won't be a new video sweater class out by January. I don't think y'all understand how long it takes to produce these. It takes 6 to 9 months to produce one. So there will be no new video sweater class out by January. This one finishes in January. So there. Or do you mean just if you're going to be doing one? My next full video sweater class will probably be either in the spring or possibly not until the fall. And I might do an accessory for the spring, the way I did Labadee, because I've got other things cooking. So these really do take a very long time to produce. It's like all I worked on for 8 months solid, which means I'm not generating any income doing anything else. Like this is my main job. So then my main job is to sell it and to support it, to really fully be there to support it. But also once I get past this last release, now I have to turn my attention to getting the education platform up and going. And that's a lot of computer programming. It's a lot of video editing. It's a lot of all that stuff. So I probably won't do a full sweater until the fall so that it can be another really big one with lots of options. So I think I want to do another, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but what I'm mulling over is crazy, possibly crazier even than what I did here. So there you go. So, and by the way, we can't always do a mini when like here, there's no way to do a mini because the only mini would be knitting junior, right? You can only do a full mini sweater. First of all, we did the full mini sweater for Volition because it was a seamless construction. It was the only way we could do it. We did a full mini sweater for Palm Canyon because I was able to size down that stitch pattern. But if you have a stitch pattern that can't be sized down, you really can't do a mini of it. But we do mini swatches like we did on Tortola, where it almost looks like a little tiny sweater front. And we did a little mini for Harbor Springs, which was really fun. Well, so nothing's going to work. So I hope learning how to add pockets for one works for all pockets. So first of all, nothing works for all sweaters. And also there's a lot of different kinds of pockets. This was the interior pocket, right? So you have a pocket facing, then you put that on hold. Then you have a pocket lining, which is basically, right, the sweater body. And then you join them together. You have patch pockets. That's a horse of a different color. You have afterthought pockets. There's a lot of different kinds of pockets out there. But yes, this concept, do a pocket facing, put it on hold. Basically, step back and think about it. Think about the why. So I had somebody post, when you're too close to it, when you're just like, I need to memorize these steps. So I had a tutorial for how to make this A-line shape. And then I had someone post on the Rev group and saying, okay, well, now I'm totally lost. It says, waist shaping, but how does that apply to A-line? And I said, okay, really stop. Stop and look at this guy and think about what it is. Okay, what it is this section of fabric, right? That's our pocket face. We do that first. This shaping of the pocket has nothing to do with the garment shaping. The garment shaping is this lining, and this lining happens to line up with the waist shaping. So this concept, you could take any simple sweater and say, okay, well, can I, instead of just knitting the front, I want to think about the front as 2 layers. Can I knit a portion of the front, shape that, put it on a holder, now knit a portion of the back, and then join them. But you're going to want to map it out. You're going to want to lay out where does it fall in the stitch pattern to make it a clean join, all that good stuff. Is it straightforward enough to Portuguese purl a seamless sweater inside out? I don't know. It depends on the sweater, right? It depends on the knitter. So these questions that want a simple yes or no, I mean, what's straightforward to me might not be straightforward to you. So if it's double-sided lace and that's going to freak you out, then the answer is no. If it's a simple stitch pattern and it doesn't freak you out, then the answer is yes. If it's a simple construction, the answer is yes. If it's volition and it's a complicated construction and you're going to get lost in it, then the answer is no. There's never just this always, thing. How can you answer for yourself if it's straightforward? Read through the pattern. Does it make sense to you? Then it makes sense to you. You feel me? Just because it makes sense to me, don't mean it makes sense to you. I'm not inside your head. So there you go. I want to block a superwash cardie for button band, knit, and stockinette. I saw somewhere you suggested spray bottle blocking. Yeah, I like to spray bottle block so that I don't freak out. So here's the thing. When you wet superwash, it grows. Now, the thing that always confuses knitters is they say, well, but I'm gonna wash the sweater, it's gonna get wet. It's true. But 2 things. Thing 1 is when you're blocking a sweater, you're trying to set it to schematic measurements, you're smoothing the stockinette, you're molding the cables, all that stuff. You can't set something to schematic measurements when it's grown 10 times the size. Thing 2, if it's a seamed sweater, there's a reason not a lot of seamless construction is made out of superwash. If it's a seamed sweater, you're going to have the seams as your structure. So when that sweater gets wet, now you have the seams that are like a skeleton, right, that hold it together. So what I like, when I don't have it with me, what I like for spray bottle blocking, and I have a blocking webinar, which I'm going to probably reshoot as a more interactive video class with real demos, because that was just a webinar I did years ago. So it's more just my voice and slides. So I'll probably leave that up for sale at a lower price, and then I'll do a full blocking class. The way my blocking class is live, I have swatches, I physically do wet blocking, all that stuff. So for spray bottle blocking, you want to look for a spray bottle that gives a nice fine mist. You can get them at a plant store, like a spritzer. Flatter is a really cool product that wasn't originally meant for us. So I saw it many years ago at Rhinebeck, and I said, oh, what's that? Or maybe it was TNNA, I don't remember. And I asked what that new product was. And she said, Jacqueline said, oh, that's not for you. That's for quilters. It's for spraying each block so that they're perfect and lovely and flat. And I said, gimme, I'll decide if it's for me. So I did test it out over a variety of knitted fabrics to make sure, did it leave any kind of sticky residue? And it doesn't. And I love it. I love it so hard that in the virtual retreat that I ran this fall, Affinity, everyone got one in their goodie bag. So I really, really like that. Oh my God, it's almost 3 o'clock and I have to go soon, but let's see what else we got. No, it is freaky geek, wishful thinking on pockets. Yes, you can add pockets to things. Just make sure you understand, is that pocket going to work in that garment? There's just never an always. But why do we want an always, right? Why do we want things so simplistic that there's going to be an always? We don't want that. We want to think. We want to think through our stuff. I'm having problems just starting. This is my first sweater. I have yarn needles, did bill swatches, and I have my gauge. How do I get started? By casting on. Literally, one step at a time. I mean, are you talking about affinity? I mean, one step at a time, one tutorial at a time. Remember, all of this stuff in affinity about changing the shape, and that's for the advanced knitters who are like, okay, what I'd like to do is I'd like to do that cardigan, but I want it to be longer, and I'm going to do 3/4 sleeves, and I'm going to do a shorter V. And they're like, have at it, you go for it. But if you're a new knitter and you got gauge and you want to just cast on and knit the sweater, how do you get started? Cast on, right? That's it. Like, why do we freak ourselves out? It's one stitch at a time. Just cast on. That's it. How do we start? We start with the beginning. Cast on. Then we look. Now what do? I knit some rib. Then I do that. That's all. That's all we got to do. One baby step at a time. Okay. So here's my parting words. I have to go make mittens for my niece that then are going to be for you guys as well. They're going to be flip top mittens, and they're going to be the affinity mittens. I've adapted the cables for the mittens. It's very cool. But I'm also in the middle of computer hell because I've had yet another setback with computer land. So that was fun. And I have a column due for Modern Daily Knitting, so I have to go with that. If you are not on my newsletter already, join my newsletter, because I'm going to put together a survey of what classes you guys want to see next. And then keep your eyes open. Everybody that's in Affinity will get some kind of coupon code to get, I'm going to work on an Affinity mitten and hat set, which I think will be super cute. And the reason I did that is, well, A, my niece wants flip top mittens, but B, I thought, I bet people might end up with some leftover yarn. Let's design something for the leftover yarn. So you might not even have to, buy any more yarn. So I'm going to do that. If you want to hang out with me this Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, Friday is Chart It, Swatch It, Love It, which my designer in the room, my wannabe designer in the room, take that, Chart It, Swatch It, Love It. Saturday is Professional Polish, Secrets of the Pros. Sunday is Advanced Knitting Fixes. So go to VogueKnittingLive.com right now and let's sell those classes out, man. They put faith in me and allowed me to add 10 spots. So let's sell those bad boys out. Okay. So let me see if anyone else said anything. Oh, love your blocking webinar. Yeah, but full blocking class. Yeah, because then I can do demos like I do when I teach it live. I steam block live. I do all that stuff. Shelly, you've done 10 sweaters for your grandkids? Holy carmoly. Well, then why do you not want to start? I mean, just, hey, gang, all you folks out there who please tell Shelly to just cast on and you'll be okay. Cast on and you'll be okay. Becky, I don't know. Becky, try it. Becky wanted to know if it's too late for the affinity code. The retreat was in August. Why did you not use your code yet? I emailed you all right away. Holy carmoly, the second it went on sale. All right, Becky, try it. And if it's long since expired, just email me. Okay, I gotta go. I have so much to do. As always, this feels like it couldn't be more important to say. It hasn't felt this important to me to say since spring. But you know how we always end our lives here. For those of you who don't, you may type you may type them in. But you know, we have a saying here. That saying has grown as our knowledge has grown. So the saying used to be, how we used to end our time together, was with the wish: wash your hands, don't touch your face, knit on. Our understanding of the virus changed. That's not flip-flopping. It's called the evolution of knowledge. Okay? Yes, I come from a family of doctors. We then learned more about it. We learned that it was airborne and how very much the wearing of masks helps save lives. For those of you who live in Australia, you all are enjoying your wonderful concerts and your life together because you did the right thing. You all put the health of each other and the greater good of the entire community ahead of any nonsense about personal freedoms. So yay, rock on with you, Australia. So then we added wash your face, wash your hands, don't touch your face, wear your mask, knit on. So guys, please, if you know anyone out there, if you have friends, if you have family, if you have COVID deniers in your life, please, wouldn't we all like to have our lives back? How do we get our lives back? By putting the greater good of the community in front of this nonsense of our personal freedoms. You know, when we willingly gave up all of our freedoms was after 9/11. We're like, here, take them, do whatever you want. TSA, enjoy, here's our personal freedoms, go. I think we all can do the math and understand that we have experienced a 9/11 here in America every 2.5 days since February 28th. A 9/11 worth of people have died every 2.5 days in America. Put on your mask. I don't want to hear it. I love you guys. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Wear a mask. Knit on.